the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Welcome to another edition of Jock Brothers, Let Us Make Man. My name is Brother Ahmed. We'd like to welcome you all. Tonight, we are talking about mental health. One of our shows, you can go back and look at some of our YouTube shows prior to this. This is a topic that we have addressed a few times. And tonight, we're going to deal with it due to some of the events that have impacted our community, like the act of suicide and the rise of suicide. We felt the need to discuss mental health and mental health issues. We have invited some of our brilliant minds to address this topic. We also wanted to introduce a powerful documentary that can bring awareness to this very important topic. First, I have to introduce the Jock Brothers. So please welcome first my brother. He's a father, he's a mentor, he's a hard worker for the cause of truth. Please, with a warm Jock Brothers round of applause, welcome my brother, Brother Kawi Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Jock Brothers Presents Let Us Make Man. I'm looking forward to this show because this is a topic that I run from. I absolutely run from it, but by the grace of Allah, we got individuals on this show today that attack it. And so I'm forced today to get this conversation. And so I look forward to it. I hope that if your situation is something like mine, then this is the one. It's going to be light, I believe. I hope it don't get too heavy for me, but this is the one you want to get your notepad out, get your pen out, and take notes. And if you see somebody with some of these circumstances, please help them. But once again, for those that are part of the Jock Nation, we thank you so much for tuning in. Really, it's no words that can express how much we appreciate the support we've gotten over the last almost 2 years at this. For those of you that have donated to the Jock Brothers platform, we thank you so much. Once again, words just cannot express how much we appreciate the financial contributions that we have been receiving. And if you remember us from when we first started to where we at right now, you can see there's been a tremendous improvement on our presentation, on the quality of our presentation, just the equipment we use. And we like to ask you to continuously support the Jock Brothers. So if you even give them a penny, thank you. Now, the Jock Brothers. By the way, our Cash App information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Ahmed will not let me forget that. It is $ Jock Bros. Once again, it's $ JAKQBROS. Now, the Jock Brothers have an initiative that we have going on, and that is we intend to get the Final Call newspaper behind the bars to our brothers that's locked up, that's in prison, that don't have access to this information on a day-to-day basis. Now, I have a loft to go over 1,000 Final Call newspapers sent out to the prisons. But let's just keep it simple for right now. Let's just get the first 100 going. There's 100 papers going out to the prisons. We already got the pricing for it. It's $18 to get the Final Call newspaper behind bars for 90 days. $30 for half a year, and $60 for the entire year. Please sponsor somebody. Now, we're not blessed to know 100 prisoners or 1,000 prisoners. I don't know those many people behind bars, but if you do, please get that information to us. We have a website dedicated specifically for that. It's called jockviewers.com. And if you know somebody, we just need their name, inmate number, the prison that they're at. I'm sorry, jockbrothersviewers.com. Jockbrothersviewers.com. And I promise we'll get that Final Call newspaper. And right now, I want you to know I'm in talks with regional prison ministers. Not only on the West Coast, but the East Coast. I'm trying to get in contact with other prison ministers so we can get more names. The money here. We got some money. We need more because we don't have that 100 subscriptions yet. So support us. And again, you send that money to Jock Brothers, our Cash App, $ Jock Bros, $ Jock Bros, and just put that specific dollar amount I mentioned, and we'll know that it's going toward the prison. And last but not least, let's not forget, this is Savior's Day season. We cannot forget that it's Savior's Day season.
That's
If
right.
the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said even one word that has affected you positively, that made you do something positive for your life or somebody else, that has made you eternally better, a better person now than where you was before, what better way to show your appreciation than to donate to our Savior's Day gift. Now you can go to NOI.org and it has a donate button there. Please donate to our minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for all that he has done, is doing, and will do for us. So I thank you. That's my announcements. All right, Brock, man, let's take off.
Thank you, Brother Kawi. And Brother Mario and Sister Mavis, we definitely would like to have that discussion with you after the show. And we are trying to reach brothers and sisters that's incarcerated and find a way to get the Final Call newspaper to them. So let's get started with our show. I'd like to introduce some of the brilliant minds that we have on our platform. First of all, I'd like to introduce Sister Mavis Muhammad, who's a licensed chemical dependency counselor, certified anger resolution therapist, and mental health professional. Her passion is helping people, and she believes it is also her God-given purpose in life. Sister Mavis has been in these fields for many years and is an advocate for individuals to care for their mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. She has provided services to diverse populations, including those incarcerated. Please welcome to our Jock Brothers panel and platform, Sister Mavis Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Did you want to say something very briefly about your?
Having just completed an assignment, because that's what they are, at the Harris County Jail here in Houston, I was able to drop gems and jewels from the teachings, and there are brothers that want to receive the Final Call newspaper. I remember at one point they were allowed to go in there, and I don't know what happened to that, but it's good to know that you are working towards that goal, because there are men in there that are hungry for that information.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sister.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'd like to introduce one of our brothers, Brother Mario X, Oklahoma City Study Group Coordinator for the Nation of Islam. He is a husband, a father, and by discipline, a licensed therapist serving inmates within the Oklahoma private prison system. He also holds membership in various fraternal organizations where he holds leadership roles throughout the community. Please, with the Jock Brothers round of applause, bring on our brother, Brother Mario X.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm more honored than you all can really imagine to be able to share my experiences and my passion as it relates to mental health. So just to be able to provide insight from what I've learned and what I've gathered from over the years really means a lot. And I think it's a much needed conversation that our community needs to have. And I'm more than welcome, and I'm very excited for us to get into this discussion.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. And we have a couple of other panelists that will be joining us soon. But let me introduce this young woman that's on our panel. She's so full of knowledge and energy. You know, I don't know where to start, but she is one of the reasons why we were kind of eager to get this word out, because she produced a powerful documentary. Well, let me start. This sister, with the support of her parents and others in the community, at just age 17, she will be graduating from elevated places as valedictorian. and also graduating from Houston Community College with her associate's degree as magna cum laude. She has produced from her passion for mental health, specifically with the Black Muslim community, was a documentary she created called Minds Forgotten. It's the Minds Forgotten documentary. With the help of her videographer, Sadia Muhammad, this sister was able to assemble a body of work that addressed the mental health crisis. This young woman also owns a successful virtual assistant business where she works to remove tasks from the plates of other entrepreneurs and trains other virtual assistants to do the same. I mean, what doesn't this sister do? She has so much to offer. Please welcome with a Jock Brothers round of applause our sister, Khadisa Muhammad.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I just first want to say thank you so much for extending this invitation to have me on you all's show. It really, really, truly is an honor. I think that the topic of mental health is one of the most important conversations we can be having today. So to have this platform to speak and have an open dialogue about the subject is more important than we can even realize. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm so excited to hop into the conversation.
Wow.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you so much. I just wanted to show, this is the video. If you can go on YouTube, you can find it, Minds Forgotten, a Muslim mental health story. If you go on YouTube, you can check this out. It's so impactful. It's a video, I mean, you should watch with your family, your friends, people in your community. I mean, maybe before the football game or the basketball game, this is something you should watch. So please, if you're engaged in any social media, go on YouTube and check that out. Okay, so let's get right into this conversation. Because of this documentary, I wanted to start with you, Sister Khadisa, about
Yes, sir.
a little bit about your background in mental health and psychology.
Yes, sir. So I decided at the age of 13 that I wanted to pursue a career professionally in mental health. So as soon as I began my college career at 13 at Houston Community College, I immediately began taking psychology classes and absolutely fell in love with what I was learning. The concept of the human mind and learning how we communicate with one another and learning how we deal with one another, I thought was fascinating. I thought the idea of why we do the things that we do of mental health was absolutely fascinating and something that needed to be studied and uncovered further. And then as I moved on up throughout my collegiate career, I started taking more psychology classes. I started having more conversations with my peers, with psychology experts like Sister Mavis and other people within my community to get a better grasp of the subject and get a better understanding of what exactly mental health was. And I began to study my surroundings. I began to have conversations with more of my peers and realize that mental health is really something that is not spoken about in the way that it should be. I don't remember often having conversations about mental health. And then in studying the suicide numbers among youth and studying those statistics, I realized that we have a real issue on our hands. So that's when I began to create the Minds Forgotten documentary.
Praise be to Allah. And what were you planning to accomplish by coming up with this documentary? I mean, what did you expect to get a great outpour or great reviews of it?
No, I didn't. I knew that it was a sensitive subject. I knew that it was something that would be very difficult for many people to acknowledge. Even in asking people to be guests in the documentary, I could tell that the questions made them squirmish. I could tell that it was a difficult conversation for some of the guests to be having. So in knowing that, I figured that it would be difficult for the viewers as well. So I knew that people would share it, but I didn't know that it would go as far as it has. And I'm so, so grateful that it has gotten the viewership that it has so far. But the reason why I created the documentary was just because of that lack of conversation, and what I wanted to get, or the result that I wanted to have from the documentary, was just more of that conversation. I wanted to spread awareness, just so that first we can recognize that it's not something we can continue to sweep under the rug. The issue grows larger every day, especially with the emergence of COVID-19. The issue is exacerbating. So it's not something that we can continue to sweep under the rug. So I hoped that people who watched the documentary could recognize the issue within our community and within themselves, and then begin to perpetuate that conversation.
Wow. I mean, that's great. I have to admit, I had the same experience when I first started college. I had a professor in my psych class, and she said to me, she said to the class, she was discussing about love and how many hugs you've gotten as a child, and how many times someone said they loved you. And it hit me like, wow, I had to think about that. Like, that didn't happen to me a lot. And it was such an unnatural awakening. Like, wow, so with my children, I constantly say that to them. She even invited me up to the front of the class for a hug. And I had to go because I was deprived. I was deprived. But it was a rude awakening for me. It was, I mean, just getting awareness of mental health issues that we have is such empowering to know that you have an issue, and then being able to express it verbally, knowing the words to say, and learning how to heal yourself,
Right,
is a whole nother path. But one thing I wanted to start with was, in growing up in my community, all the guys kind of reverence the bullies and the thugs. And there was a lot of shootings and killings in my neighborhood. And I grew up in the nation. So it always was I couldn't understand how young men could kill each other like that, because I was just raised to love the black man. So when I reached the age of 16 or 15, I'm mingling with the guys, and I'm seeing them heinous acts and crimes and killing. And I'm learning that, hey, it's not that these brothers are brave. Bro, Mario, Sister Mavis, that they just didn't care anymore. Some of them were brave. I'm not going to say that. But the reality was, they just lost all cares. They just didn't care anymore. So now it was almost a form of self-suicide. So I'm out here, and it doesn't matter if I live or die. It doesn't matter who I kill or who I don't kill. So I wanted to see if you could address that, because I try to teach the young men not to follow some of these brothers and some of these sisters out here who project to be so rough and hard, but really they just don't have a knowledge of even what they're doing. So the difference between suicide and bravery, suicide and self-suicide, of putting themselves out there in the world.
Yes, sir. And that question was for me, beloved?
Yes, for you all.
Sure, absolutely. I would love to touch on that. When you think about suicide, brother, when I think about it, I also take resources from Black clinicians and professionals that came before myself. So when you talk about an author by the name of Amos Wilson, and he stated in one of his books that when you look at the close relationship as Black people or any community, we are one. And with us being one, we are a part of each other. And so when you look at homicide, homicide is defined when someone kills someone else for an unjust manner. Suicide is when someone kills themselves. So if we're looking at it from a deeper or a spiritual context, when we even kill each other, we're killing ourselves. But when we kill ourselves as individuals, that's the intimate ending of life. But actually, the self-harm or the harm that we cause our community, that is actually suicide as well. Now, you spoke about something that brought something to mind. You talked about how you've seen men when they're in the streets and it almost seemed like they've lost their sense of consciousness. And I also tell a lot of my clients, it's possible not to meet somebody or see somebody on their best day. And a lot of times as a therapist, when I see clients, I don't always meet them on their best day. That's why they're seeking out help. And it's very brave for them to seek out help and to get help when it's beyond their control. And have experienced the gang life myself and being in the streets. It's a bittersweet thing because it's not always that you are looking for the intention to die. Is that you want the praise that comes along with living a reckless lifestyle, because it is praised.
Right.
And also some of us are trying to go out and be remembered for that thing that's praised. But when you look at any human being, when they wake up, nobody wakes up with the full intention that are in a healthy state of mind and say, today, I'm going to die. Let me do something to die. Usually persons are in a state of distress, whether it's financially, emotionally, the climate of the home. You spoke about hugs. I know people that got hugs every day, but they got a hug after their father beat their mother. You have people that got hugs after their father or mother got drunk. And I think what's most important when we're looking at children or adults in home life and what's kind of brewing these type of acts, you have to look at climate. What is the climate of the home? The climate or the mind of the parents produce an atmosphere in the home. And I think that it's very important that we have an atmosphere of unconditional love, an atmosphere of compassion and understanding, especially when you're talking about from father to son. There's this false claim. We don't say it, but we believe it. In order to make a man, we have to do unto our children what was done unto us. And that is not always true. History has shown that physical discipline does work, but we make the mistake to think that every child is the same. Some children may have an attachment disorder. So when you look at a young man that has an attachment to his mother, if the family don't understand that and the father's trying to push him away from the mother to get him to grow up and not be pacified, if that child has an attachment disorder, then removing him from the mother like that actually could be harmful. And I've seen that happen before, where a father had a child, where his child was now a 43-year-old man. And the father left the mother, but he left the mother with the child, but the attachment was to the father. And that child suffered for those 4 years that father was not there until they went and got him diagnosed. And his father's 70 years old, and that child's been with him, or that man has been with him ever since. And he was unable to function without his father. And so I think it's unfortunate, but I like to look at even those of our community that finish or complete, we call it suicide. Right. They are also martyrs, because they had a problem that sometimes a lot of them, they were not aware that they may have had mental disorders when they did these things. Just like you have physical health, all of us have mental health. There's no human being on the planet that does not have a mental health. And so we have to be just as intentional with our mental health as we are with our physical health. And I'm going to end on this note because I want to hear from the other speakers. If you are dieting and exercising and for a week you drive through McDonald's or you drive through a fast food restaurant and you eat that, you can expect negative effects. Well, the same thing is with mental health. If you're exercising and you're thinking properly, but then you start entertaining, you go through the drive-through of unhealthy thoughts. Right. You go through the drive-through of alcohol or substance abuse substances. Then it's the same correlation on a mental health level. So I like to look at persons from our community and other communities that have completed suicide. I like to look at them as mortars, and in them being mortars, we have conversations like this to kind of lower the stigma so that we can begin to recognize those things and begin the repairing process.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Anybody else wanted to address that? Oh, hold on one
Yes,
second,
sir.
Carl.
Yes, sir. I can definitely relate to everything that Brother Mario has shared. And being in the substance abuse field for so long, it's what is called a slow suicide, because to continue to partake in the use of substances, illicit substances, prescription substances sometimes, is a slow death a lot of times for some people. I can also relate to the home where I was raised and not really hearing the words, I love you.
Mm.
It was shown to me. It was shown to me, but I didn't ever hear the words. And so once I got to a platform where they said it regularly, I was kind of taken aback, like,
Right.
y'all just tell each other that all the time. And one memory I have of my mother is the first time that I said it to her on the phone. And you could hear the surprise in her voice. She went like, huh? I love you too. So it was, I won't tell you what age I was, but it was time, you know. And as this message is a timely message for now, it has needed to be one before now. Our wonderful minister here in Houston, Texas, Dr. Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad, had made a statement the other week, and he said that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. In other words, that's it. You make that choice, that's it.
Right.
But the thing is, a lot of us don't know that the problem is temporary.
Come on,
and
sister.
we could say the same thing. We could say the same thing about drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Temporary solutions to what could be a permanent problem because of the mental health of that person.
Yes,
I've run into a lot of tough guys working with the incarcerated, young and older, women, men, boys. But it's funny how when they start sharing into their lives, that toughness dissipates.
Mm-hmm.
It dissipates, and it is, they don't find it necessary for it to be a part of their character.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
When they're in front of me.
Right.
But
right.
I had one inmate to tell me, well, Miss Muhammad, I can only say this in front of you and cry in front of you. I can't do it when I go back in the tank.
That's right.
And I understood that.
Yes,
I understood that because that climate, like Brother Mario just spoke about, that climate induced that thinking. And so they had to follow through with it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Your mental health is so important. And
yes,
it is, as I said, a timely message for us to have at this time right now. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Brother Kawi, you had a statement?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to where Brother Mario actually said a couple of things that I want him to address, or anybody to address. One is, you said black on black crime basically was an act of suicide. I guess that don't get as much attention as if you kill yourself. So are we specifically talking about suicide as a community? Or are we talking about suicide as an individual? That's one. that attachment disorder that you was talking about as well. Man, we just don't talk. I just don't talk like that in my family. Like at one point I thought my son was a mama's boy. I'm just like, okay, they just got an attachment from her weaning him when he was younger. I would have never thought to use attachment disorder, even though I thought it was unnatural for him to have that type of bond with her. I had to get him myself, and quote unquote showing what a man is supposed to grow up. Now that could be just what I had to experience when I grew up in terms of trying to find my identity as a male in this society. Am I off on that thinking in terms of me thinking that relationship with his mother was a little too tight, or is it wrong to say that, oh man, that's a daddy's girl, man, that's an unnatural? Is it wrong to say that's a daddy's boy, he really loves his pops?
I think
you want that, you know what I'm saying?
I think every father seeks to be admired by his son. That's a natural thing. You don't rarely hear a mother tell a daughter, "You're such a daddy's girl," in a negative light. But when it comes to us saying that you're a mama's boy, that's cultural. So what we do is we have to mature our defining of that. I would say I'm a mama's boy because I understand the value of the Black woman, the protecting, the providing, the aiding, the assisting. So I'm a mama's boy as well. I think that a lot of times it's a slippery slope when you don't have both forces under one roof. And so what happens is when a child needs direction from the father, the mother and father has to be on the same accord to say, okay, now that you got to go to your father for that, or ask your father for that. And so it's not a bad thing. Absolutely not. You also have to look at age. Now, if you got a 23-year-old son, that's called dependence. That's different. And so what usually happens, even in a lot of cultures, when a young man reaches a certain age, the mother redirects him to the father because now a certain step of maturity, responsibility handling has to be nurtured in him. So I think you also have to look at age as well, right, on that question, beloved. But no, it's not a bad thing. We want to be admired by our children, and we want to be able to teach them. But for that, for those young children, the love of a mother is so comforting that I understand why children, or young men particularly, go to their mothers, because sometimes those of us that are fathers, we're working a lot.
Right.
We're conducting business a lot. So a lot of times when we get home, we're not as soft or we're not as compassionate as we need to be. And so we just have to educate ourselves a little bit on how to properly handle and address certain things. Like, for example, if a father come home and his son is on the phone at 4:00 in the morning and got school tomorrow, we usually give him the phone. You got to get up in the morning, right? Not saying that that's not a bad approach. It just depends on your child in the home. But what if the dad came in and said, "Hey, what's going on, son? You all right?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm doing all right." "Okay, I was just wondering, you're up late. I'm just checking on you, making sure you're okay. I want I want to make sure that you ready for tomorrow. You're going to tackle it. When I get home, I'm going to see how your day been. So do me a favor. You got about 5 minutes. Cut it off. And, we'll talk about it tomorrow."
So I'm not attacking your theory. I just want to understand.
Sure, absolutely.
Earlier, you mentioned that, though, as a form of how you could possibly lead to mental unhealthiness.
The attachment
to the point. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Again, it depends on. So there's stages of development. We wouldn't tell a child seeking a mother for the breast that's inappropriate. We got to look at the age development. When we understand age development, we know what type of activities we ought to be expecting from the age of the child or person. For example, if you catch a child that, has issues with bedwetting at a certain age, 15, 16 years old. I've seen a lot of times where parents will say they're too lazy to get up.
Instead of addressing the
it's when sometimes that person, they're not even aware that they're even doing it when they're asleep.
Come on, man.
So they're getting disciplined for something that they're not even aware of. And so there's a lot of different things within our culture. And again, I think it's important for us to understand we have not been having these conversations. We have pushed religion, we have pushed education, we've pushed everything on mental health but mental health. You see parents trying to provide their children with everything that they need in a bad mental health state. And I tell a lot of my clients, I don't mind using the reality as a motivating factor. I'm okay to tell a mother that wants to kill herself, if you kill yourself, it's a 500% chance that those 3 children that you love are going to kill themselves because of what you mean to them. But I think also, when I think of suicide, I'm thinking about a person that wants to end the consciousness of suffering. They want to end the conscious experience of suffering.
Right.
You see?
That day-to-day life.
But they have to be educated that when they end the consciousness of that experience, they transfer it to those who they love. They have to deal with it.
Sister Khadija, I wanted to address something, peer pressure. And, because someone asked me, well, if one of your friends was talking about committing suicide, would you tell your parents? Would you tell their parents? And I'm like, I don't know if I would, because I don't know how their parents may react to it. They might get in trouble. I know a few parents whose children have had a bad experience with drugs in our community, a few of them. And each one of them isolated their children. It wasn't even the fact that we're going to deal with the situation. It was they isolated their children. And I'm watching it happen continuously. So I'm thinking, well, would their friends speak on that experience? Would that peer pressure affect their other friends and peers in the community? So how do you feel about some of those peer pressures? How do you handle it? And would you speak to somebody's parents? I mean, if one of your friends say, hey, before you were able, like right now, you're probably able to deal with it a little maturely. But at a time when somebody could say that, and you're just like, hey, do I actually tell?
Well, I think the issue starts before peer pressure. I don't know if peer pressure is the problem. I think that it's the lack of conversation within our households that's the issue. Because why can't the child who's experiencing suicidal ideation go to their parents themselves? If I'm experiencing something that's serious enough for me to consider ending my life, I should have a type of relationship with my community that allows me to speak to someone about what I'm going through. Or perhaps I have, and I didn't receive the response that I needed. So as a friend, when you start going to your friends, that's a problem in itself. When you start going to your friends with serious issues like that, we're teenagers, and I'm trying to pull you off the edge. At 15, 16 years old, trying to pull my friend off the edge, that's a problem. We should have the type of relationships and the type of conversation within our families to where we can have that conversation without it being something like you're crazy, or that's not that big of a deal, or I do everything for you. How could you be depressed? These are the type of responses that people who are dealing with suicidal ideation receive. So now they're going to their friends. So that's the first issue. And then when you get to teenagers having conversations about suicide, I think that because people realize that they're not going to receive the response that they're looking for, we don't tell. First, we may think, okay, so everybody has mental health issues now. A lot of people are saying that they're suicidal. Oh, I just want to kill myself. Oh, I just want to die. I just want to kill myself. That's such a common phrase. Oh, I just want to jump off a cliff. I just want to kill myself. That's such a common phrase. So perhaps a friend comes to you and with a serious concern and it's blown off. It's not that big of a deal. So that could be the first reason why a child may not go and tell a parent. And then you have, okay, well, is the parent going to take it seriously? Maybe I need to address this myself, which goes back to that first point I was making about the lack of conversation. So I would like to think that if I were approached with that situation that I would tell a parent, but a lot of times you just aren't sure of the response that you'll receive. But I think that the first thing that needs to be addressed is the conversation within the household. And don't be afraid to go to the authorities. So sometimes if you're seriously dealing with someone who is on the verge of suicide, it's not time to try to deal with the situation yourself. Sometimes if it is that serious, you have to go to someone who can actually handle the situation. I hope that answers your question.
That was a great answer. It was a great answer. I'm sitting up here wondering, and I'm Brother Jackie, because the host didn't introduce me at all. So we need to check on his money, man. Make sure I don't know. But I'm wondering, because while you was talking, Sister Gudisa, you were speaking of as if like when you bring up these things, there's judgment going on in the conversation, in our return conversation. So, which is a very good point, how you put that. And it made me reflect on myself. And so I'm wondering, in our approach to those who have different dilemmas and have not, as our brother spoke earlier about being diagnosed, before diagnosed, how should we approach, those in we need to work on our approach. So what is the best approach that we see when dealing with our brothers and sisters that, with issues, or our sons and daughters, or, whatever, with issues? What is the best approach? Anyone, this is for anybody,
Sister Muhammad, you can go first.
Which Sister Muhammad?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You queen. Yes,
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you. The approach is critical. The approach is definitely critical. And I think that one of the most important conversations to have is the one where you remove the stigma associated with mental health issues. Yes. There has been so much stigma attached to it. When I was growing up, we didn't hear the term mental health. We heard, oh, he crazy. Oh, they special. Oh, they in special ed. and dismissed it with that. Mm-hmm. But the stigmas that are attached to it is what has caused individuals to hesitate to seek help for it. Because they're thinking that if I go and tell them that I'm thinking like this, they gonna say I'm crazy.
That's right.
So removing the stigma in the conversations with your children, with your family, is so important. One thing that I believe, in fact, I put it on in a response on Facebook to a young sister that I know, and she was talking about how she was feeling and how the thoughts she was having, and I let her know it's okay not to be okay. And we weren't taught that. It's like you got to be okay, period. But it's okay not to be okay. And the more a person can settle into that type of thinking, the more responsive they are to seeking help. You would be surprised. In fact, just the stigma about receiving counseling. Okay. I have offered on my Facebook page free counseling sessions, and I got one response. Because one of the stigmas associated with counseling is that Black people don't need counseling. We don't need counseling. when that is so contrary to the truth. You know,
Wow.
everybody needs some type of counseling at some point in their life. That's my belief, and including myself. I am
Exactly.
more than grateful for the when I was able to receive it and that I was receptive to it. But because of the culture, which was talked about earlier, that has been instilled in us as a people, we hesitate. We think we worry more about what people gonna think about us than we worry about taking care of ourselves. Our mental health, physical, emotional, spiritual health. It all goes together. It's in a package. It's called a mind-body connection.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's all connected. Yeah. And when one suffers, it 9 times out of 10 will affect the other.
Yes, I love what you said. It's okay not to be okay. That was so great, and everybody needs to hear that. I just wanted to introduce joining us right now, Sister Ayano Molina. She's a licensed professional counselor, mental health therapist, and the founder of True Love Movement LLC. The mission of True Love Movement to support the rehumanization of Black people specifically. True Love Movement provides professional counseling, life coaching, and produces creative arts and media, all of which promote self-awareness and self-love. I'd like to bring her on, and everybody can assist me with bringing her on with a Jock Brothers and Jock family round of applause. Sister Ayano Molina.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and please forgive my lateness. But I am here, and thank you for having me at such an important discussion like this.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And because I didn't mention, we like to thank brother and welcome brother Jackie Muhammad for joining us.
Go ahead, Muhammad.
Praise God.
Okay, would say, brother Ahmad, better late than never, right?
Yeah. I was having mental disorders. That's what I was going to say.
Right.
I'm gonna get it right.
If I didn't deal with that just now,
it
would have cycled into something.
Yes, sir. It would have caused an episode.
Right. But brother Mario, you gave a good example of how we can come in and find out children or son on the phone, that was a great example.
Very good.
So I'm wondering, just in our conversation, should we be working on different tactics on how to deal with things that maybe we don't like? I mean, just for you to give that example out of your mind was rich. Do you practice responses?
Absolutely, brother. No therapist, when a person comes into their office, have a pocket ready for an answer for them. We're not trained to open the door and close the door to answer people's problems, because you're dealing with different cultural backgrounds. You're dealing with different cultures and races. I have clients in their culture, they can't look you in the eyes. And these different things. So of course you have to deal with different approaches. And this is something that I want to encourage a lot of the believers and the community at large that's listening. If you study the Nation of Islam and Master Farrakhan Muhammad, when you study what he did exactly what we're talking about. He said the duty of the civilized man. Mm-hmm. You have to cultivate and civilize the uncivilized. Uncivilized means a person has lost the proper way of living. So when I tell a lot of people, like even when a person commits suicide, when you really think about it, is that they have a temporary narrow pattern of thinking that has the end goal of ending suffering. So I think it's important that we teach people how to engage in effective problem solving. And you don't have to have a degree to do that. A lot of people get counseling per se. And the first thing and I tell the brothers and sisters at the mosque this all the time. I thank Allah that my face doesn't look like what I've been through. Because if you have a still face,
right,
you look like a person shouldn't open up to you. And when you look at, and to be honest, looking at the condition of Black people in America alone, if we are comfortable living like we live under the powers that be in this world right now, all of us got a problem.
Right.
We all have a problem, brother. Some of us have good coping skills, some of us didn't. To be honest with you, when we joined the Nation of Islam, we knew we had a psychological problem.
Come on now.
That's why we came, because we knew we had a problem, brother. When we got there, the minister gave he is the best counselor. That's why in the scripture they call wonderful counselor. Compassion, understanding, these type of things, this nurturing, this supreme feminine quality of birthing and giving. And I think that all of our whoever's doing our processing classes, we should get them certified as life coaches. So they can teach the people how to live, how to make decisions, how to evaluate outcomes. When I deal with the men in prison, and it's so hard tugging, but sometimes I've learned to keep my empathy to myself. What I mean by that is, I am not going to empathize with you to the point that it handicaps you from addressing that you need to grow up.
Come on, man.
And sometimes even when you're dealing with a person that's going through a situation, sometimes it's best for you to just sit back, monitor them to know when the red flag is waved, where you have to seek out help, and let them solve that thing. Because when they learn to solve problems of their own, their esteem goes up a little bit. And I've met a lot of clients. The first thing they say, man, what should I do? I said this on another. What have you already tried? So what a counselor does, or what we should do, is we should help the believers, help the community to know how to effectively solve problems, to understand that life comes with its ups and its downs. We in the Quran, it says that we're going to be tried on what we say we believe. That ain't just in religion.
Right.
That's in relationships. You love this woman, here comes a trial.
Come on now.
You love those children,
come on
here
now.
comes a trial.
Wow.
You love living in this neighborhood, here comes a trial. So when we look into the Quran, now that we know that mental health, you can't separate that from spiritual health. When you got supreme wisdom like we do, or when you have truth like Islam like we do in others, you just can get to a safe place faster than somebody that don't.
Right.
And so I think that it's, we have to, I'm practicing even in my own home, supreme compassion.
Yes, sir. Let me flip this another way, because we look at suicide as something that, someone's having a problem. But now don't get me wrong, I love my father. And Sister Mavis, you're not writing this down. Don't write this down. But when I was a young boy, me and his relationship wasn't that good. He worked a lot. He was hardly home. But when he did come home, he was mainly disciplinary and, just kind of hard. And if you did something wrong, it was just his time to step in. But because our relationship wasn't that great, I found myself at times a point to where I wanted to do something to myself so he could suffer. I was so mad at him that, okay, watch this. Like, I hope something happens to me so it affects him.
That's deep.
That was a whole nother side of the suicide
Let me ask you a question, brother. Did you ever carry out that act?
Brother, this is on the air, brother. This is being recorded.
Well, the reason I'm asking, brother, is, and I use this as a means of sometimes taking the titles off to kind of help us to normalize or humanize our parents.
Well, I did. To tell you the truth, I did. What I did was I ventured into the streets,
right?
And you know, without looking back. Look, nobody cares, so he don't care. I don't care. I'm gonna get out here with these guys, and if something happened to me, it's on him. You know, let him feel it. Let him cry. I'm not worrying about it no more. You know, so I kind of just, you know, that was my act of.
Absolutely, and I did the same, brother. I think as a summation of that, for me, I wanted to, when I did it, it wasn't for me to end my life so he could suffer, but I wanted to make myself out of a man without his assistance. And I think that's a lot of times what a lot of young brothers do. I'm going to go and become something or do something, and when you come back to me, you're not going to know who I am.
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to.
I had a part of that in me too.
Yes, sir.
Because he was always he was one of them fathers where everything you did was kind of wrong. You know, let me do it because you don't know what you're doing. You're not going to do it right. You know what? I'm going to go do my own thing. Yeah.
And I think, brother, you know, a lot of it's a cultural thing. It's something that went along with us. I'm gonna give the context of this real quick. Most of our parents, you know, in the early part of, you know, in generations before, all we can say about them is that they worked a lot. They worked a lot. We don't never say, did they like the job? Did they love the job? Did the job provide them with the resources that they need to make their family comfortable? If you look at that, 90% of the time, they did not like their jobs. They were suffering when they went to work. And what happens when they get home and there's disorder, there's no peace in the house, so he's irritated that he's been gone all day and there's dysfunction. And that's why I love the MGT. Because she knows that when that brother leaves and he got that suit on, he's out there trying to make sure that the world is better. And when he comes home, she creates an atmosphere to ease his mind. And that's why I absolutely love it. Now, I didn't grow up with my father necessarily in the home, but one thing I can say that my father did, he was not in the home, but he was a friend. And I tell people this all the time. I needed a parent to a certain age. And then when I reached a certain age, I needed a friend.
Man. Come on, man.
You know, and so me and my mother, we're like best friends. And me and my father, we're like best friends, but they know and they give honor to the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan because they say, I did this for him, but this here, I didn't have nothing to do with this. This came from something else.
Right.
And so, yes, sir. And I'm very compassionate when we're, you know, even when you look at the movie, and it almost made me cry. The movie that Denzel Washington played in, where he played a father that was real rough on his son. And if you look at the end, he was so dissatisfied with how life turned out for him. But he did the best that he can. And when that son told the mother, I'm not going to his funeral, she explained to him he did the best that he could. And when your sister gets a certain age, I'm going to do the same to her. So, and a lot of times when you're living in a world, brother, that's contrary to God, the father has to put a little bit more authority in you because he knows what's out there waiting for you. And he wants you to survive it. That's one way of looking at it. And another way of looking at it is, see, brother, I'm not afraid. I'm not shameful that I can be aggressive or I can be stern, for a better term, with my son. But that's not a bad thing. But you just have to balance it. Where's the compassion? Right. Sometimes, brother, if you discipline your children and they're older, you got to explain to them why you did it.
Come on, man. That's what I'm talking about.
So if you discipline them and you say, now, come here, I love you. Now, that's very unsafe for you to leave that front door and you got them young women in there like that, okay?
Right.
I love you. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I know you're probably upset, but it'll make sense to you later. But I seen I seen memes and things of people talking about how black people raise, and they'll say, you know, I want you to rake the front and rake the back. Ain't no talking about it.
Right.
So we just have to be more compassionate, brother. Just how the minister is with us as believers and us coming into Islam, we have to be the same with our children and coming into adults. So, and again, remember, we're talking about the black family without our parents weren't Muslims, so they were doing the best that they could. And so we just have to keep those things in mind, beloved. I hope that answered some of your question.
I wanted to know though, why did you ask him, did he do it?
Because what the best guidance that you can ever give a person is your personal experience.
Okay.
What I mean by that is me sharing that I left or I joined or I went after the streets. Somebody's going to relate to why I left. Your reason and my reason weren't the same. So when you share your personal experience, there's going to be somebody in the world to say, you know what? That was my reason. So personal experiences is tailored to you. And it also shows your strength to overcome it and what you did to get back, to get back on the right path. I said this the other day to the beloveds that we don't really know each other until we die. Right. And the minister teaches that. That's why when we die, there's slideshows. And we get to know each other in a glimpse of a moment. Wow. If you take a father that worked all day and he died and his son didn't like him, and then he go and look at that slideshow, and while everybody else had on new clothes, the daddy had on that same jumpsuit he went to work in. He said he hated his father, but then he looked and everybody had food on the table, but he ate after everybody else ate because he made sure that they were full. When he dies and he knows that father paid that house off and he left it in his son's name.
Yeah.
So it's more to what they say is more to than what it seems to the eye. Yes, in a lot of cases.
I had a question about, or did anybody else want to comment on that? I had a question about the sexuality and sexual agenda that's being pushed on the youth now. Where that and social media is causing such confusion and pushing our, even not just the youth, but hey, even adults, when they're looking at all these different lifestyles, and then some people are just always happy and like everybody's rich, and some of the viewers become depressed because they want to live that lifestyle, and it drives them to depression. So social media and sexual gender, that whole arena, how is that affecting our people in our community?
Get in there, Miss Ayano. Jump on that one.
Thank y'all so much. I really don't want to talk about the sexual agenda, and that part is very private for me. I have been canceled by the LGBTQ population, and so I rather not speak about that right now until I have a real good statement to say. I know this is being recorded and that kind of thing. So please, forgive me for not being bold about that statement right now, because I do serve. I mean, I have a caseload of clients, and I do serve LGBTQ population, not just LGBTQ, but I do have some clients that do claim that title, and so I'm going to. But as far as social media, that I can speak about, and most of the people that I see, I try not to call them clients, because if we look at the etymology of the word client, it means to obey. And I'd rather not call them that, because I'd rather them obey Allah, obey the Most High, and let's work together. Because there's an old quote that says, if you've come to help me, you're wasting your time. But if my liberation is tied up with your liberation, then let's work. And why I'd rather not have the type of relationship with the people that I see as they're obeying me, or they, so we try not to use that. But a lot of people that I see, and mostly who I see are mamas. They are women with children, and Black women, my sisters, as I call them. And a lot of them come to me with not only depression, but anxiety related to what they see on social media. And what we don't realize as a people is that social media is in charge. You know, we think that we seeing is real, and what they're showing us is real, and it is not real. I have to really remind my sisters, it is not real. For one, people on there are only showing you what they want you to see. And when young people, especially, I would say between, I mean, maybe millennials, because they on it hard, you know, we grew up without it. And so we can be without it. But they grew up in this, from Vines to now to TikTok and all these different things. They grew up in this, YouTube, all these things. And so there's a part of them that really believe that this is real. All of it is real. And so they're comparing their lives to what they see, you know, their comrades or their, you know, friends or whatever are portraying. And, you know, they want to rise to that. And I tell them all the time, yo, this is a fantasy. It is not real, for one. For two, it is not meant for you to be on there all day, every day like this. Take yourself a break. Take a mental, emotional, behavioral, spiritual break from screens, period. Let alone Instagram, Facebook, all of these things that really do take a toll on your mental and how you see yourself, how you see where you are in life. You know, we always see the ups on social media. You never see somebody say, well, you know, I really had a bad day today. You know, everybody like they don't never have a bad day. You know, and so I tell them, I mean, I think one of the one of the brothers said something about balance. That's what we all need. We all need balance. You can't do Instagram and, you know, all the time like this. Even if, you know, some people say, well, you know, my business is on Instagram, so I really need to be on there. You need to take a break. You need to get outside. You need to get in the sunlight. You need to drink some water. You need to stretch. You need to breathe.
Go ahead.
You know, and so this is the type of work that I do. Just really, you know, standard care for yourself, caring for your brain, caring for your body, caring for your own heart, and thinking about those things. So, I'm willing, you know, to engage in a conversation about the sexual agenda. You know, I just want to put that in, but you know, I'm willing to like pass that question on to another member of the panel tonight.
Thank you, sister.
I want to touch it really quick. I'm not going to take too long. I honor and admire your carefulness on that topic. That just shows integrity. And anytime us as mental health professionals, when you're dealing with someone that's in front of you, your job is not to assess what you feel is right or wrong in that person's life. Your job is to meet them where they are with the goals that they give you or present to you that they want to work on. And that is the most important aspect that you can do. Now you can say, okay, they say, well, I want to work on this. And you say, wow, this is beautiful. And sometimes I use visuals so that they can see it. Like, okay, let's write out, this is what you want. Okay. Now let's create some subdivisions around everything that is attached to that goal. And let's look at those things. And you really help a person to really see what the problem is. And even when you're looking at persons from different sexual orientations, they're more than these people are more than their desire. They're more than that. They're brothers, they're sisters, they, you know, so I deal with persons very delicately, and I do have persons that identify, you know, with that community as well. And there is a great book that I read even when I was coming out of high school, and it's called First Do No Harm. Don't make a person or don't add to what they already come to you with. Because you got to know that God's in the works of everybody's life. And sometimes God don't assign you to answer all the questions. You handle one part, and then God will deliver them to somebody else that'll handle the next part.
Oh, that's good. That's rich.
So I have a question. Are there any, so since we're dealing with, I guess individuals that's probably on the brink of suicide, is there any clear-cut signs that we should look out for that could tip us off to, okay, this person needs some help? In addition to the norm, is there anything clear-cut? Because I really want to know, especially when it comes to teens.
Risky behaviors for me is always going to be number one.
Risky behavior, okay.
Risky behaviors is always going to be one of the main ones.
Give me an example of risky behavior. What you talking about?
Well, like the sister said, some people they don't know it. Man, most people that are suicidal, they don't even know it. You know, when you think about it, people that complete suicide, they were sincere. A lot of times they didn't recognize it. I've had experiences where, you know, depending on what's going on in someone's life, they'll have, you know, very risky behavior as it relates to sex or gang violence. And so for me, risky behavior, especially when you're dealing with African-American men, is always going to be one. You know, because like I said, for us, death is glorified. I remember and this is another one of those personal experiences that we can learn from, when that movie with 50 Cent came out, Get Rich or Die Trying. Our people, some of us have that as our life slogan now. We're going to get rich or die trying. But I remember when he said that he was shot 9 times, and he would go on to these radio stations and people would just be admired that he lived through it, and he was on the brink of death until he got that record deal. And he was real. Some young brothers I know said, man, I want to get shot. I want to be able to come back like that. And some of them did go, but they didn't come back like that. And so I think that's why it's important that the content that we put out as it relates to the portrayal of what it's like. You know, even when you look at movies, when somebody gets shot in a movie, a lot of times it looks like it don't even hurt. So there's a psychological desensitizing that happens when it comes to death with Black people in general. You know, that notion that, you know, we feel no pain is totally to the contrary. And so I look for risky behaviors. And when you're dealing with Black people, we're always trying to cope. That's why in our community, you see a lot of co-occurring. You know, drugs or substance abuse is always not too far away when you're dealing with persons that you know, that are dealing with certain things. They're going to smoke it away. That's why the CBD thing is, I'm not saying that, you know, there may not have been some type of benefits to that plant, but once it hit the market and people can make money from it, you don't need, you know, you could say this is for anxiety, but it's all a money thing. So I look for risky behaviors, brother. That's the first indication for me with the population that I'm dealing with men that are in prison and things like that. So I'll yield.
And, you know, brother, I see isolation. When someone's late. Isolate meaning they are disconnecting with people they would normally be connected with, and they are moving themselves out of these connections into just being alone. We don't realize about depression. We don't really understand it, I don't think, as a people. We don't understand the signs of it. And you're right, brother, we don't understand when we are depressed. And depression, we have to be very careful with it. We have to understand it, and then we have to deal with it even when we are minorly depressed. right? Because it will just, sadness and grief is one thing, right? That's a normal human thing. But when it gets you to the point where you all you want to do is be alone, all you want to do is sleep, you're sleeping too much, or you're not sleeping at all, you're eating too much, or you're not eating at all. We need to be aware of and be in observance of ourselves, because depression will pull you down into suicidal thoughts before you know it. And
well said.
yeah, and so we need to be in observance. And so how I've shifted True Love Movement, which is my business right now, how I've shifted it. At first I was dealing with truly mentally ill people with stuff like bipolar, major depression, kind of chemical depression, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. And then I realized I am really not the best counselor for that. And that is a smaller population than it is people who just suffer from depression. Just maybe not major depression into suicidal thoughts, but depression in a way, somewhere, somehow in the minds and hearts, depression, anxiety. I mean, like the mid-level people like me, people like you, people who have had real low down. Maybe they've had many some community violence that has happened in their lives, and they haven't been able to cope, and so they got stuck in the stage of depression, stage of grief, which is depression, and they don't know how to get, come from under that. And what I realized, a lot of people really need the understanding of what mental health is, that we all have mental health. All of us right now on this podcast have mental health right now, right? We all have physical health, some level of physical health. Yes, whether it's good or bad, we have it. And we have mental health too. Somehow mental health has gotten a bad rap because it sounds like you talk mental illness, which is something different, right? We're talking about mental health and the ability to take care of that. Just like we take care of our physical health by drinking good quality water, by eating good quality food, moving our body, getting sunlight, we can take care of our mental health and understand that. And so that is what I realized, we're gearing up. True Love Movement now is gearing up for a real movement into understanding what mental health is.
Right.
And how to cope with life's ups and downs. Someone mentioned that, and I appreciate that. How to cope with death when it happens. Death is a part of life. But when you lose somebody really, really close to you, the world says pick up and move on. And then we keep going, and then another down happens. Maybe we, something like the pandemic happens, quote unquote pandemic happens, right? And so it's one thing on top of another, and before we know it, we're depressed. Before you know it, and you may, and so that's what I realized, is that suicide is a very serious thing, and that's another. We are not really understanding. Too. Like if somebody say, I really hurt myself, or I really want to die, we tell them, oh, you'll be all right. Or just let me make you something good to eat. You'll be okay. Or go pray about it or whatever. That is a big indicator if somebody tells you they do not want to live anymore. We should take that seriously. Very seriously.
So how do you deal with that?
Well, I have to say, and this is just me, that this is what type of speaker I am. I'm very vulnerable and I talk about it. So my son, during the pandemic, we still in the pandemic though, but at the beginning of the pandemic, his grandfather died from COVID. And he was very close to his grandfather. His grandfather was his BFF. He loved him. And so here I am, a counselor, raising my children and trying to understand how to take care of their mental health. And my son called me and told me, Mama, I want to kill myself. And so immediately, I'm so glad he trusted me. Well, really, he trusted a friend. He told his friend, and his friend told him, "You have to tell somebody." So he told me. And so I understood it as he was grieving. I understood that. But I asked him, I said, "Baby, do you know what you're saying to me?" He said, "Yes." I said, do you know that you can't undo that? That if you die, you're gone. And he said, "Yes." I said, I asked him, how? How do you want to hurt yourself? And he had a plan on how
He
he
had a
wanted
plan. Wow.
a plan. And so, as a counselor, we are taught there are levels to suicidal thoughts.
That's right.
And when someone, especially a minor child, he was 15 at the time, has a plan, we take that very seriously, very seriously. So as a family, we made a decision to send him to the hospital. And listen, y'all, that was very difficult for me. But because, he had already been in therapy since his grandfather had passed away. And I asked them we don't want any medication. But going to the hospital, there was a hospital in my city at that time. The only place I send any of the people that are suicidal or in a crisis. And they're the best that I've seen. But there really is a huge gap that needs to be filled by our people about having a hospital for our people, having a place for our people to go when they're very, very sick mentally, like when they are at their worst. So he spent a week there and they did a lot of group counseling. They did a lot of coping skills and he's been much better since. I know that's a happy story because he's a Black boy and it could have been something else, because just like there's a prison industrial complex, there's a medical industrial complex too.
That's right.
Right? So it was very hard for me to make that decision and put him in the hands of people that I did not know. But I trust, this was the place that I sent my own clients when they felt this way and was in some type of psychotic crisis or whatever, and they had good results. So I'm thankful and that he had good results and he has not had these problems. And I monitor him all the time for for isolating, for depressive moods, not eating, these type of things. He lost a lot of weight when he was feeling depressed. These are the things that we need to look out for. And just, now we have a conversation about coping and what he's using to cope. He's using his journal. He's writing about it. He's talking about it. He is really made a big change, and I'm very thankful and prayerful. And let me tell you something about suicidal thoughts, and I'm not going to go too much longer, but it's almost normal. And I don't want to say that where you have a plan and you plan Russian roulette or actually have these type of activities like you're doing risky things and all that. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about, dang man, life is hard. Yeah. And sometimes I wish I wasn't here for it. And I'm not saying it's normal, but I'm saying in the day and time, you know what I'm saying? All that we have coped with, even as a people, as women, as people who have been violated psychologically, physically. And so we need to understand that is a little red flag for us. If you begin to start thinking that way, that's a red flag. We need to stop and try to figure out where that's coming from and what we need to do to lift ourselves back up. And a lot of time it is going to therapy. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be in therapy for the rest of your life. Your therapist is bound to confidentiality. The therapist is not going to tell everybody your business. Your therapy is not all trying to be all in your business.
Right.
You know, your therapist is a helping professional. You don't go into this field just because you want to get rich.
Right.
This ain't no rich people field. This is hard work. This is a hard work field.
Right.
You know, and so I am a big advocate of counseling.
Right.
Absolutely.
So am I. So am I. Yes, ma'am.
You got something you want to say, Khadijah?
Well, one thing that really stuck out to me was when you were speaking about depression. I think we have the tendency. Is there an echo? Is that me?
Everybody put their phone on mute, except for her.
Okay, I think we have kind of a tendency to equate sadness with depression. Depression is an actual medical illness, and that you release hormone. I'm no psychologist, I'm no therapist, so when I'm speaking, this is not me giving medical advice, but depression is a medical illness. So you release hormones that actually impact your body, which is why Sister Ayano was speaking about the isolation, wanting to be alone, not eating, sleeping too much or not sleeping enough. That is the response, or that is the reaction that your body is having to the hormones that are being released due to an actual depression. It is an actual medical disorder. So it's not the same as sadness, which is why I would love for us as a community to stop saying things like, I want to kill myself, or I just want to die, or I just been so depressed lately, because it's not the same thing. And it's actually very offensive to people who are actually going through something as serious as depression. So I think recognizing those signs, recognizing the risky behavior, recognizing the isolation, recognizing that you're thinking about things on a regular basis like suicide, realizing, okay, there's a plan and action in my head, recognizing those things in yourself, but also paying attention to your loved ones to see if you can recognize it as well is so critical. If you see that your child or someone in your household has just undergone something traumatic, pay attention. Truly pay attention. Don't think that just because you went through something similar or somebody else went through something similar and they reacted in that way, that this person is going to respond the same way as well. It's our job as family, it's our job as a community to pay attention to those around us, because you really, really never know what somebody is going through. And one thing I would just want to add, we've seen a lot of suicides today and everybody's shocked. I just never would have known that this person was like this, or was going through this rather. I never would have known that this person would have committed suicide. But at a certain point, we have to stop being shocked and open our eyes, because it's a pattern. It's a pattern. So when you see people around you, pay attention. That's just really what I want to leave here. It's just really pay attention, open your eyes. Of course, you're not going to be able to see every single sign, but a lot of times it's there. We just have to stop sweeping it under the rug. And as a family, as a community, one thing that I want to point out is what Sister Ayano was speaking about, the fact that her son was comfortable enough to speak to her. A lot of children are not. So what if he hadn't? What if it had just ended in the hands of his friend? What would have happened? So it's critical that we start having the conversations. It's not a joke. It's not a plaything. It's not something to laugh about. Oh, she's so crazy. It's not a joke anymore. It never has been. We have to start getting serious about mental health in our families now, right. Because don't be shocked. Stop being shocked when somebody has hurt themselves or committed suicide. That's just what I want to leave. I know we're about to close up.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we're about to close. Sister Mavis, after you make this statement, you can make a closing remark, because we're going to go around and I know Sister Khadijah just kind of said her closing remarks and her piece, but I just wanted her to say one more thing. So Sister Mavis, if you could respond to that, and then we're going to go around, everybody say their closing remarks, because I want to respect everybody's time.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's participated on the panel, because what they've all said has been so enlightening and so important to this topic. But just for a minute, I'm going to refer back to social media. And what came to my mind was the beautiful young sister I think she was 28, made Miss USA. They said she was the oldest to ever win that title. Okay, so here you go. You put that stigma in her head. You're the oldest.
Right.
And as it turns out, she had a fear of turning 30 years old. But she went on social media and posted about it. You know what? I'm Facebook friends with most of my grandchildren. And if they post something that I don't want to see, then I just delete it and keep going. But it's important to monitor.
Right.
You have to monitor their feeling, how they're doing. I lost my mother in October of last year. And as a family, what we created was a family text feed. And we check in with one another. We check on one another. We say, how are you doing? I put updates. I'm transparent about my health. And I put updates about my health and ask them, how is your health? How have you been? How are your children? You know, it's just about checking in and having that communication that Khadisa stressed is so critical, because there's more than one way of communicating. It doesn't all have to be verbal. And if you want to use Facebook to communicate, I don't have a problem. I navigate my way through it as best I can.
Yes,
but and not being shocked. You see, that beautiful sister's mother came out and said that her daughter had been dealing with depression. What Sister Ayano just spoke to us about. So the question that came up for me as a therapist and counselor was, well, did you ever go and take her to get some help for her mental health? And that will never be answered because, you know, the sister plunged from the top. I mean, she had what a lot of Black girls dream of having. Winning a beauty contest, being beautiful, living in New York, but that did not fulfill the need she had to dispel a fear of getting older. So many people don't know what a blessing it is. Well, I'm here to tell them, it is a blessing to still be here. Sister Kenya, on the other Sunday lecture, she said something about sharing this special occasion with you. And she said the special occasion is that Allah blessed you to open your eyes.
That's right.
That you're alive. That is the most special occasion in my life today. Everything else has to get in line.
Yes,
because after that, you know, what else is there? But social media is a way of monitoring, you know, and trust me, they don't have to consent for you to be their friend. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. So just put their name in there, check out their page, and you know, you'll be surprised at what you would find. And if her page had been monitored, that may have been avoided. However, what a law allows, you know, we about.
Yes, ma'am.
But I just want to thank you again for the invitation to be a participant in this podcast. And I have thoroughly enjoyed everything that everyone has said. I want to thank Sister Khadisa for making me a part of her documentary. That was an honor and a privilege. And I'm so proud of her.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes.
We're going to go around and everybody going to give their closing remarks. I know you kind of gave your Sister Khadisa, but I just wanted to ask you one more thing before you close. Are you becoming the go-to person for your friends and family? And how do you unload when if people are coming to you like that? Because, you know, when you're young, your circle is, when you start getting older, everybody's out having 9 to 5s. It's a whole nother story. But when you're young, your friends and family there's a lot of them. So now that you have this skill, are they making you the go-to person? And how do you unload?
I wouldn't say that I'm the go-to person. I think that there have been more conversations happening around me, I've noticed. And when someone is ready to get serious, they'll say, oh, well, we need to do this in the community. We need to do that in the community. They like to involve me, which I'm so honored. And I think that was one of the major goals of the documentary, is to start having those conversations and for people to be more aware. So the fact that is happening, and the fact that they are inviting me to things like this and to different community organizations, is honestly an honor. And I'm so excited to see how we're going to continue to grow as a community, just even in those little small ways. But I think that I've always had a very close and open relationship with friends and family, to where we can have open conversation, and it's only growing more. But I think that it's an equal exchange. So having people in your life who are open to speak about their struggles, just as you can speak about yours, is important. So I know who I can go to within my group and within my community to speak about certain things. And I think that there are people around me who know that they can come to me as well. So just having that open exchange and just being comfortable being vulnerable around each other, I think is important.
Thank you, sister. Sister Ayano.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this. And I'm always going to say yes when it's time to talk about mental health, because I'm very passionate. And what I would just say to anybody who is listening, try to really understand your own mental health and where you are, because teaching by example, that piece of is so big, leading by example, how we care for ourselves and our minds and our brains, how we understand that what we eat, what we drink, what we watch, what we intake really matters to our mental health, and that's what I'm on right now. That's the movement I'm on, is just having people take care and understand their own mental health and teach by example. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Love movement, keep me in mind. If we need to talk about mental health, I'm up for it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Brother Mario?
Yes, sir. One thing that I've learned, brother, in life is telling somebody that someone else has it worse don't make their worse feel any better. And so that's very important. And I also tell those in our community that are suffering, don't get mad at your family because they don't have the answers. Sometimes we take the burden of the world to our mothers, and as much as they try to give us guidance, or our fathers, they don't have the answers all the time. And so if you have to seek professional help, it's okay. But a few tips is, I tell my clients, find your strawberries in life. Find the parts of life that are just sweet for you. And when some parts of your life get bitter, go to your corner and find your sweet parts of life and nurture on those things. And it'll help as well. I also tell people that they say misery loves company. I say, no, misery loves miserable company. So make sure that you're in good company. My last final remarks are going to be, and I know we spoke a lot about the brothers, but I've grown an overwhelming amount of love, appreciation for women. And a nation for sure cannot rise no higher than a woman. And this is why this is so important, brothers, because we are a lot of times the floor of why women suffer. And so we have to look at that, because the teachings say that he said, I don't want to see you weighing more than yourself. So don't we go put our weight on them, brothers.
That's right.
To have to raise these children by themselves, have to go to work. And what I tell, the worst thing that we can do as men is play with women and leave them at the table by themselves to answer the critical questions about life. That is very, very unjust of us. And so I think those of us as men, I think we should do something as often as we can to assist them with whatever duties and responsibilities that they have, because they do a great amount of nurturing to us. And a bit of advice for youth and anybody. I want you all to go and get a good book. Go to, anybody can do this. I want you to go to Amazon. I want you to find a book on CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I want you to start a circle of persons, and I want you all to dissect it, learn what it is, know how to apply it. I'm not going to tell everybody to go to college and get a certificate. Go and learn the skill and the art of it so we can learn how to deal with our problems. The first thing, when we think of mental health, we say, I'm going to solve this. You just identified that as a problem. No, it's a part of health. So I want us to go and I want us to create support groups, want us to meet often. I want us to get books to teach us how to deal with people, how to answer questions, and how to be empathetic. But mostly, before a counselor even offers services, just even talking is therapeutic.
That's right.
And you'd be surprised how much you can relieve a person of the burdens on their mind if you give them your undivided attention.
Yes, sir. That's a good
People will ask you how you doing and don't even give you time to respond.
Yes,
So
sir.
when you're dealing with people in life, we say assalamu alaikum, right? So if it's peace be unto you, then make sure that you're really giving them that peace. And you make sure that you return it as well. And if we act out that assalamu alaikum, we'll be just fine.
Yes,
that's
sir.
my final remarks, beloved.
Man, thank you, bro. That was excellent. That was excellent. Bro, Jackie?
Man, I want to thank you all for gracing us with your presence. You all have given us definitely ammunition to be better parents, better fathers, better brother, better husband. Just in our approach, non-judgmental conversation. And I appreciate your openness, especially you, Sister Ayana, when you let us know what you did with your son. That was very good. I appreciate your openness. So we definitely need to pay attention more to what's going on in our own atmosphere, environment, before we even look outside. So thank you all for coming on, sharing your wisdom, sharing different points, different tactics, different skills. And Sister Kadisa, we're extremely proud of you. You definitely developing, and you're very articulate. And we look forward to seeing, how much you grow, and we enjoying what we're seeing. So thank you all, Brother Mario, Sister Ayana, Sister Mavis, and that prison system, man. I applaud you. So may Allah bless all of you and continue to bless you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro. Brother Mario, you have something real quick?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to give a bit of, I guess, warning or per se. I don't want any of our people to walk away from this discussion, not us, of course, but our listening audience feel like you got to go and diagnose people. I get that a lot in prison. We see signs and we say, oh, yeah, no, I don't want us to do that. Just get started on trying to help people feel better.
Yes, sir.
And have love for themselves. A diagnosis only gives us an indicator on the approach to take to solve the problem. So don't worry about diagnosing people. Just learn how to help people so we can learn how to enjoy life. Let's get us started on learning how to just enjoy life.
Absolutely.
What call we?
Wow, man, this was quite a podcast. I'm gonna be honest with you. Wow. I'm just trying to understand.
It's all right to cry too, Carl. It's all right to cry.
I'm trying to. Sister Kadisa, she a freshman. She a freshman in college, talking like this.
No, she's graduating.
You're a freshman in college.
She can graduate with her associate.
Yeah.
No, I've graduated with my associates, and I've graduated from high school, and I've already graduated with my associates. So I'm in college right now.
Okay.
Congratulations, beloved.
Wanted to.
Yeah.
Wow, how old are you? You 13. That what you said?
No, sir, I'm 17.
Oh, you 17? Oh, wow.
7? Oh, wow. You know, brother, I didn't graduate high school till I was 21 years old.
I was 18, brother.
Man, it shows the power of a made up mind.
Right, man.
Yeah.
She light years ahead of me at the same age, you know. This was a great discussion. I'm gonna be honest with you. I got a couple of questions answered. I still have a few more, but what I got answered, definitely a great starting point when it comes to me trying to just build that relationship with the youth in my life and even adults. That was some great advice, Brother Mo. Don't be over here I'm not going to try to play doctor because I was ready to play doctor, brother. I'm gonna be honest with you. That was a very timely statement. I just need to just build relationships and Sister Yana, I like the line of questioning you asked your son. He was so blessed to have you, you know, at that moment because of you knowing how to deal with those situations. I can't imagine me getting that type of statement from my son or my daughter and not having no experience to deal with it. Knowing who I am right now, I would have probably said something real stupid. Like, boy, go sit down. I would have probably said something really stupid instead of taking it as serious as you did. And because of this show, and it's no way in the world I'm gonna let a statement like that get by me without diagnosing it. And so, in the wisdom that you exude, Sister Mavis, I mean, you didn't say a lot, but when you did speak, oh man,
yeah,
it's like I got to watch the show again because it was. I mean, I got the surface information that you dished out. I didn't really the depth of your information. I got to watch it again because
impeccable.
Yeah, it was over my head, but it was on my level, but it was over my head. That makes sense. So this was a beautiful show. Man, we just got to do this again. We just got to. I don't know what lives we may save, but I tell you what, we won't get the chance to save them lives if we don't keep putting this information out. And that's what I commend you on, Sister Khadijah, so much so, because you're at least taking that step to at least putting the information out there. And you know, and Allah knows best where to lay his message, where to lay his inspiration. And he chose you. And again, Allah have once again proven that he's super wise. And this panel that Ahmed put together, man, I salute you, brother. This is great, beautiful panel. And so that's my final words. I wasn't trying to embellish. I was really sincerely giving out just due to those that deserve it. So I look forward to this show again. I promise you that. Thank you, family.
Praise be to Allah. And I thank you all for joining on. Thank you all for accepting our invitations. I love you all and the professions that you're in. Is sometimes these panels are like such a breath of fresh air or a glimpse into paradise. When I think of paradise, I think of us speaking wise words to each other, thinking before we speak, and saying a good word to heal each other. And that's what this was. Anytime we have a mental health discussion, it's so healing to our minds and the body and the spirit. Man, I'm telling you, it's just, for me, it's like a glimpse into paradise. I wish we could make a movie about it.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Muhammad.
Yes, sir. Could you imagine Black people just actually speaking to each other in healing words? And anyway, so thank you all for coming on. We're going to do this again, inshallah. I'm going to stay in contact with you all. We have so much work to do. Thank you for joining on and getting this word and this message out of love and peace. Thank you all. Good night. Good night to all our viewers.
Good night, everyone. Peace and blessings.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.